Hello, hello! Welcome to episode 12 of the Weirdest of the Weird podcast. My name is Nathan Edward Pius, and we're back! Yeah! I know it's been a while. I think the last episode I did was in September of last year. Jeez. But I figured I was going to do some audio work for another short film that I'm doing. Stay tuned, stay tuned. But I realized, I was just grabbing my microphone and my gear and stuff like that. It was just like, it's been a while since I've done an episode. I should probably do one. I should probably do one. Probably kept you guys in the dark for a while. And I guess a lot of life changes. Well, not a lot of life changes, but just mostly laziness on my part to actually record an episode. on my part. So I take responsibility for that. But oh no. Also just life and just finding a chance to actually get an opportunity to record an episode. But I'm definitely glad I'm able to you know, do an episode because I've missed you guys. I've missed you guys. I don't wanna shed a tear or two, but I've definitely missed you guys, and I've definitely missed doing this. So yeah, but I figured instead of just reviewing movies this episode, I'll probably just review just 3 episodes, or excuse me, episodes. It's been a while. It's been a while. No, I just figured I'll just review 3 movies that I saw recently, or just what I've been able to get an opportunity to see in theaters of recent. But I also just, I figured, for the first half of this episode, I thought I'd just touch personally on, I don't know, some personal mental, would I call it mental? Yeah, I just some personal mental stuff that has I don't know, I just wanted to get off my chest. And I want to preface that this this is technically venting, but I don't see it that way personally. I see it as very healthy for oneself to talk about one's problems. And I mean it again. The what I also do see it as venting when you're talking about it to someone else, or in this case, this void of an episode. But I hope you guys don't see it that way, because I do find it very important for people to talk openly about their feelings, about their problems, and anything that's plaguing them. And I thought I would start off by talking about, so this is, I want to start by talking about negative talk. I For me personally, this has been this has been an ordeal that I've had to kind of face for a while. I feel like I would say it would have started with me right out of high school. I think that's when it started to become not more or less a problem per se, but it was like it started out right after I graduated high school. Um, it's very interesting because in trying to compose my thoughts to actually talk about this, I never actually, I was trying to trace back a timeline, so to speak, as to when did this actually start happening? Because it does seem like it's been plaguing me most of my life. But I think when it really truly started to happen was when I got out of high school. And it started off small, where it was just like, if I made a mistake, I'd be like, that's okay, Nathan, but you could have done a little bit better. Like, it started off logical, where it's just like, okay. Well, there's always tomorrow, but come on, man, you could have done a little bit better on this, or, it would be, I don't know how I would handle a situation with my parents when I was still living with them. Like, if I made a mistake and I knew it was something that, my dad told me before, and he will, like, quite in quote unquote scolding me, being like, dude, I've told you this more than once, why are you doing it again? And it'll be like something reasonable, like, dude, Nathan, you gotta stop doing this, man. Your old man's getting old. He's had enough heart attacks in his lifetime. But so it started off there, but then at some point as time went on, it did cross a line, where it just, I don't know, it started to bleed into, like, my personality, into, like, how I think every day. Like, it got to a point where it was, like, just in an interaction that, in all most accounts, went okay with, like, talking with, like, people. It would just be like, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? Dude, you're so fucking stupid. And it would just, I'm going to keep it as PG as possible. I mean, I know I just said the F word, but, like, in terms of verbatim and thoughts, it gets a lot darker, I feel like, for me. And it continues to get darker for me. And I feel like my mind space, I mean, aside from it sometimes being a gutter, because, I mean, hey, for most people, who isn't? Aside from that, I also do feel like it does, like, I always feel like, I only noticed it recently, but, like, I am, like, most of the time, my mind space, or my headspace in general, most of the time, is in a very dark place. Like, yeah, it's, the amount of times it does scare me, is, I mean, I've lost count at this point, but, like, the negative self-talk will now, in more recent terminology and terms, it's like, when I'm by myself, it'll be like a tick. So, for, like, I don't want to say that I'm medically classifying myself, but, like, for, how people have Tourette's, where it's a physical tick, it's like that mentally, where I have to, like, I'm about to think something negative, and then I have to be like, I either have to mentally, with as much mental brain power, like, shove that thought away, or worse, it kind of leaks into, like my physicality. That is a challenge, because, like, when I'm hanging out with friends, or even by myself out and about, I have to, like, kind of go into this actual corner, look, like, both ways, and be like, okay, is no one looking? Okay. And then just kind of, like, when it does physically happen, I not only talk to myself, that's what I do to kind of like ease away the pain, but it's like I am trying my utmost best to like, I'm telling myself like, Nathan, shut up. Nathan, shut the fuck up. Shut up, dude. I cannot deal with this right now. And that in itself is, again, it's not any positive self-talk, but in the moment, for me personally, it helps me kind of just get rid of those thoughts. But it can be tough. And then that kind of leads me into, so that becomes more of that kind of leads of a factor of a problem going into my relationships with my closest friends, and my parents and my family. So without divulging names, I know this person. I'm not going to say if they're a family member or a friend, just for the sake of, and I can't say the name, but like, I want them to be anonymous. But growing up, for me personally, with my parents, it was, I always, I mean, this is Asian family lingo here, but like, you always want to make them proud. But I feel like with my parents, I had the luxury of they, I mean, they were disciplined with me, and I cannot thank them enough because that is the foundation blocks of who I am as a person today, and I thank them enormously for that. But I was given an extra benefit of like they didn't judge where I was going career wise. Like they didn't judge. Like my parents aren't judgmental of the fact that I'm in Atlanta trying to pursue a career in acting. Like they're not judgmental one bit on that, and I cannot thank them enough for that. And it's so it's so awesome to know that they're supporting in their own way. But I never really thought about this until one of my close friends really brought it up to me, where it was just like, especially with my dad, it was just like, you're always trying to make him proud, Nathan. And I was just like, growing up, I never saw it that way. I was just like, I don't think so. And it's just like, no, Nathan, I think you don't realize it because, hell, you lived with him. So it never really hits you until you move away from him. And I was just like, huh. And I kind of went, like, kind of retraced my steps in the lanes of memory, so to speak. And I was just like, it kind of does make sense. Because, like, my dad did teach me, like, he did help me with my homework and stuff like that. And so I was kind of starting to slowly realize that. And I was like, oh. And it kind of makes sense. But I feel as though, so there is this other person in my life. I've known him for a couple years now. And it's either a he or a she. Oh, fuck, I just realized I said a he, but either a he or a she. In fact, it is a she. It is a she. I'm not doing a good job on this anonymous thing, keeping it anonymous. But anyways, so this person I've known for a few years, and they've become like more than close friends. Well, I mean, they are my closest friend, and it's also with another person that I do know, that I've always it's been almost kind of like that same exact like parent me dynamic between me and my dad where I always want to make him proud, or I want to always make this person proud. But I feel like it's just jacked up to 11 or 12. Like, it's just extreme. And coupled with my negative headspace, it's a nightmare. And I always tell myself, you know, like I always try and tell myself, no, it's this person's fault that, I'm like this. Like I'm just so annoying to him. He like never really does reciprocate, like, anytime we have a serious conversation, I feel like, or anything like that. But then I realize that's who that person is. I can't control how a person is. That's all on you. And I know that that's the truth, but with my negative mind space, that adds the truth, but it's like taking a nail and then just like the nail is in the hole, so to speak, but it's going further and further in, and it's just causing me more pain and suffering than it already needs to. And man, it can get tough because, like, I mean, in all negative mindsets, there is an extreme. And when I hit my extreme limit in my negative mind space, it rolls into not only a dark place, but self-harm and suicide. And there have been a couple times where that has happened, where I've come out of a situation and it's just been not that great. It is my fault in some way, but instead of telling myself, Nathan, that's okay, just don't do it again, I tell myself that. I'm like, yeah, but you're also fucking stupid. And then it's like, that is a tip, and it's just, you're just going further into like this rabbit hole of just decay and suffering. And there have been a couple times with this friend where it's been like that, but so much worse. Oh my gosh, and I'm saying this because, I say these negative things, but I tell myself there is a positive in me thinking in this negative mind space that this friend, this person that I hold near and dear to my heart, if he knew what I was thinking, if he knew what I was going through, I would tell him, I care about you. I really do. You deserve better as a friend. Fuck, I'm sorry. I told myself I wasn't gonna get emotional, and I'm fucking getting emotional like an idiot. But yeah, it's like when you tell yourself that you want to be your 100% best self for this person, and you keep failing on that promise that you made to yourself, it can be tough. And especially having that dynamic of wanting to make this person proud, like similar to how I make my dad proud. It stings a lot, and it hurts, and yeah. And I've never had a great track record of making friends and approaching a lot of people to some degree. I mean, that's the way that I see it. And I tell myself that I think one good reason not to have a friend is this situation, case in point. And it's just, I mean, I want to make more friends. I want to pursue relationships, and it's just, I always feel like it's a luck of the draw when it comes to that. And yeah, it sucks to say the least. But when I always think of these, when I always think negatively, I also have a negative mindset in this too, which is fucking wild, but I always tell myself, hey, look at what situation you're at in life. A lot of people have it a lot worse in a million worse ways that you can imagine. So count your blessings, dude. You're in a way better place than those people. So be grateful for that. So yeah, it's I always try and think in that way, but it can sometimes be a little bit tough when 90% of the time your mind's in a negative space. It's it can be tough. But there is a pro to this. When I am having a good time, when I am happy, I am so fucking happy. I am on cloud 9 when I'm happy. But it does suck that, and again, life is a roller coaster, both, mentally and, physicality wise. Hey, I always have to remind myself, you're having a good time now, Nathan, but just remember, there's a downslope in this roller coaster, so just brace for that. But just know, it's not a complete rut. You're not going to be down the whole time. It does build up to another high point. So I always have to tell myself that. And, I always try and keep that, overarching, message in my head somewhere. But, yeah. On to movies now. But yeah, I recently watched The Fall Guy, and I loved it. I would not say that it's as good as Bullet Train. Bullet Train was iconic, to be fair, but it's got Ken. It's got Ken, guys. He's so cool. It's Ryan Gosling. We're all Ken. We're all living in Ken's world, but also Barbie's world. But yeah, but yeah, it was. Having now more of a respect for the movie industry and how movies are made, and especially doing a lot more background gigs. I love this movie because of that, and just having nothing but respect for the people who work in crew, and who make movies happen. And case in point, stunt performers. Nothing but respect of them literally putting their lives on the line for stunts and for actors, and having nothing but respect for them. And this movie had a pretty decent plot. I know the main event was just the stunts and Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, but it had a pretty okay-ish story. There were some points in the story that was lacking, but that didn't bother me that much. And then I saw Dune Part 2 3 times. And let me tell you, this movie had no right whatsoever to slap as hard as it did. It was so good. Oh my gosh. The first movie, if I were to look at it in 3 parts, or break it down into 2 parts, so to speak, the first movie, the appetizer, just a little taste on your taste buds as to what you're experiencing, or what you're about to experience. And then boom, Dune Part 2, the main course, just was so good. Oh my gosh. Like, the transition between the end of Part 1 going into Part 2 was so seamless. And this movie moves, I mean, the first time you watch it, it moves fairly quickly. It's 2.5 hours, but it moves. The pacing was just incredible. I would say it was on par with the same story pacing as Oppenheimer, in making it feel not as long as its runtime says. And I mean, for me, it's just like, if a story or if a movie can do that, that's a feat in its own. But yeah, it establishes, Paul Atreides as going from, a boy to a leader, and what it makes to be a leader. But if you read the books, and again, slight spoiler, like, if you read the books and if you've watched interviews from Denis Villeneuve, he's said that, you're not supposed to be rooting for Paul Atreides, because the story is very politics and chess move making oriented, and it is for personal, like, a lot of things that happen in this story are solely for the benefits, more specifically, of Paul Atreides in power and attaining as much power as possible. But yeah, it's like, you're not supposed to feel as though Paul Atreides is 100% a good person. I mean, he's not. And I love that the story does establish that in some ways. Or it doesn't. I feel like it does thematically, but hearing what Frank Herbert has said, that, you're not supposed to be rooting for Paul Atreides as a good person, and also hearing that from Denis Villeneuve, when you watch it a second and third time, and you keep that in mind, you're uncertain, you're a little hesitant. And I love that this movie kind of makes you feel that way. Like, you're rooting for him. Like, you're with the Fremen. Like, you feel like you are one with the Fremen and Paul is leading you. But you're also questioning his motives as well. And I love that. I love that about this movie. And the visuals, just like the first movie, incredible. Incredible. Oh my gosh. It was just fantastic. Some of the visuals that are shown in Part 2. And the blend of cinematography and, like, knowing how some of the shots were, like, practically shot is pretty incredible, what they were able to pull off. Yeah, in terms of performances, like, man, Austin Butler, man. Austin, I mean, even as a brute, psychotic Harkonnen in this movie, I was like, he's still risen me up a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. I was personally rooting for him too. I mean, if he were to succeed, so to speak, or, like, anytime he was on screen, I was just like, hell yeah, it's my boy. Look at that bald head. But yeah, Zendaya did an incredible job. She really did feel like I could really take her side as a as an audience member trying to relate to any one character. As the movie progresses, you start to relate more and more to what she's trying to say about Paul, again, without spoiling too many things or spoiling the story. But yeah, it was definitely one of the best movies so far this year, without a doubt. And I'm looking forward to Dune Messiah. And I'm very much so happy that Warner Brothers is going ahead with production on it, because, you know, if they just left it at part 2, hey, I would be happy, but come on, you still have there's still more story to be told. That's the way that I see it. And then more recently, I saw Civil War. This was a very interesting watch, because I wanted to watch it solely just to watch it, but knowing that it was coveted in a lot of people were condemning this movie for its political views and stuff like that. And I didn't listen to any of that going into it. I just wanted to watch it solely for just watching it. And I want to say I commend this movie for giving a pretty bold interpretation of modern America as it stands. Because one thing that I do agree in what this movie is trying to depict is America is very divided. Like, it's more divided than it's ever been in terms of both political ideologies and political views. That being said, there are... this movie does kind of take a little... There's a lot of exaggeration in this movie. Because I personally still believe that, yes, America is politically divided now more than ever. But I don't think that, like, modern day America will just uproot and go into civil unrest and to a full-on civil war, as the movie explains. I believe that violence is not the answer, and we can talk our problems out instead of just resorting to guns and arms and, you know, weapons. But I mentioned this to, like, another friend. It was just like, it's wild, because in this fictional world, because the U.S. map is divided into factions and sides, and one of these sides is that California and Texas paired up, and they're known as the Western Forces. And I was just like, okay, I could see that, but despite, in my opinion, of how slowly Texas is starting to become just a little teensy bit progressive, it is a bit of a stretch to see that they would just, you know, California and Texas would just kind of put aside their political differences and just be like, let's be friends. Yeah, let's be friends. I was just like, that is a very interesting interpretation of it. But the story was very good. Because it is from the perspective of these journalists who want to race to Washington, D.C. to get an interview with the president. And this kind of puts you in the shoes of what a journalist is, that they are to tell the story with being pretty much numb to any political beliefs or, you know, opinions. They cannot chime any of that into their stories whatsoever. And I really admire that about journalists, just to be blind to any political beliefs and to just tell the story how it is, how it's told, and how it's unfolding. With that being said, with atrocities that happen all over the world, you kind of... one of the journalists, Kirsten Dunst's character, says it best. It's when you take a picture, you just take the picture and you let the audience or the person who sees your picture form the questions and opinions. You don't do that in the moment. And that has got to be tough, though. And knowing that when you're in a political war zone or an active war zone, an active war zone, and as a journalist, if you get shot or if you get killed, be aware that your death is going to be a very shitty one, and it can play out in 1,000 different ways. I find that very scary and very daunting as something that you need to know going into a job of journalism on that level. But this story did a very good job of showing and telling that in a very grounded, more or less realistic way. Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, the whole cast did an incredible job in this movie. And it's, I mean, I'm going to say it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will definitely cop a copy of this on Blu-ray. For sure. But yeah, those are the movies that I most recently watched. And yeah. All right, guys. Well, it was good to catch up with you guys. I'm not making a promise here, but I will, to the best of my ability, be consistent on this. Because, man, between September and May, that is too long a time to keep you guys waiting. And I am truly sorry for that. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and to listening into my podcast. If you guys want me to cover anything in the future on any other episodes, just feel free to comment down below. Let me know. And, if you just want to, in general, just start a conversation, just a conversation or just to say hello, you can feel free to let me know in the comments down below, too. Alrighty, guys. See you guys later. Peace.